Hey everyone, I'm Kai Chimura, the host of Soccerpedia podcast. For today's episode, I'm very excited to have Rafe Mauran as a guest. Rafe Mauran is currently the executive director for Carolina FC, which is a soccer organization in South Carolina. Rafe has several years of experience coaching at various different levels of soccer, whether it's rec, select, college level, or even semi-professional level. He has been involved in soccer basically in his entire life. The way I knew Rafe or first met Rafe is that he took over the coaching director's position at RYSA, which is Rockdale Youth Soccer Association, where I played and grew up playing soccer at. And Rafe is a good guy and a good friend of mine, and I'm very much looking forward to this interview. And without further ado, here's the show. All right. Hey, Rafe, how's it going? Hey, can you see me and hear me? All right. I think it says you're connecting to audio right now, so I don't know if you're already muted at the bottom. You may have to unmute, or it takes a few moments. Hey, I think I can hear you.
There you are. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome.
Thanks.
You wearing an old RYSA shirt? Yes, you are.
I am.
Love it.
Yes, I had to bring it for the special occasion.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love
I'm
it.
surprised it still fits. So yeah.
How's your world? I know that the school teaching thing is good. I mean, everything's good.
Yeah, everything's good. Yeah, it's starting. Well, this past week was the first week of school, and everything's starting off online, and which is at this point the safest option. So it is what it is. And
So our kids are this week they start, and so they have virtual 4 days a week, and they're going to school 1 day a week, and so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's life in South Carolina?
It's good. It's good. I was here before I came down to RYSA. I was here for 2 years, and I was working at Wofford College for a couple of years as an assistant coach there, and then I worked at the club that I work for now. I coached a team, and I was the director of goalkeeping, and so I am kind of coming back to where I was before. But yeah, it's been good. It's been really good.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this last few months has been a little weird, but
yes,
other than that, it's been good. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I just appreciate you having time to come on the podcast, and I know you have plenty of soccer expertise and experience, and so I'm just happy to have you on the show. So I just wanted to start off what got you into soccer, and what did you ever imagine yourself like getting into coaching and directing organizations? Like how did that?
It's funny. No, I did not. And so if I go back to when I was a kid, I didn't really start playing soccer until I was probably like 7 or 8 years old. And my dad always liked soccer, and so that was just kind of a natural fit, I guess. I played recreation soccer until I think it was 12. Back when I'm 44 now, so this was in the 80s, and there wasn't really a whole lot of travel soccer. It was kind of like, right when I got into travel soccer, it probably started a couple years before that, actively. Everybody was playing recreation soccer. And so I did that for a while. My dad coached my teams for a while, and we obviously played a lot together in, the backyard, that kind of thing. And so that's what got me into it and got me hooked early on. And then as the, I guess, late 80s, early 90s started, I kind of got into, it's interesting. So what we think of now today as soccer.com used to be Eurosport. There was a catalog called Eurosport. And I would wait for that thing to come out. Every month we'd get one. You'd see the new shoes and new uniforms. That's kind of how I kept up with international soccer for a while. And I guess right at the early 90s is when, the U.S. was in the World Cup in Italy. They started showing some soccer on TV. Mm-hmm. And so just, started to get into it then. I was probably, that was, late high school, early high school for me. And no, I had no intentions of coaching soccer for sure. I went through college. I was fortunate enough to play soccer in college, and after that, I did want to try my hand at professional soccer. I don't know how successful I would have been, but my plan was I was going to drive up the East Coast. I was going to drive back down the middle of the country and try out for any team that would have me. Even just, hey, can I practice with you guys and see what you think, kind of thing. And then my My junior year, the spring of my junior year, I tore my ACL early on. And I didn't want to, there wasn't really a path for me to use another year of eligibility, and I didn't want to lose a year of playing soccer. And so I just rehabbed really hard that spring and that summer, and I played my senior year without my ACL. I just, strapped the knee brace on real tight and just I went out and played. And the last game of my senior year, the athletic director and principal of the local high school came down on the field, literally my last home game, and asked me if I'd want to coach high school soccer the next year. I was 22 years old at the time and didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself. I was a psychology major. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself. And so it sounded pretty good to me. And so I did that. And after a season, had a great experience doing that at Franklin County High School. And the season after that, the assistant job came open at my alma mater at the University of the South in Sewanee, Tennessee. And so I did that for another 2 years afterwards. At that point, I'm probably, what am I now? Probably 24, 25 years old, thinking I probably need to figure out what I want to do with my life. And another opportunity came up to continue to coach soccer, but also get my graduate degree at Springfield College in Massachusetts. I went and got my master's degree in mental health counseling while I was coaching soccer there. And then right after that, I don't even know how I came upon this opportunity, but Davidson College got in touch with me and asked me if I'd be interested in helping coach there. And so I did that. I also thought I was going to continue to do the psychology thing. And so I was applying for all kinds of different jobs, group homes, all of that kind of thing. And I'd been at Davidson for probably 2 months. I was coaching soccer there. And I was on the final interview to go. It was called the Barium Springs Group Home for Boys. I was in my final interview there. The day that I went for my final interview, the coach at North Mecklenburg Youth Soccer Association got in touch with me and asked me if I wanted to be a director for one of their age groups. The pay was about the same, and so I went with the soccer, and that's kind of what I've been doing for the last few years. And so obviously I was at Davidson, then I was at Wofford College, and I was at Limestone College. Club jobs are sprinkled throughout. And when I was at Limestone, my dad actually forwarded me an email that he got because my nephew was playing at RYSA at the time, and the director of coaching was leaving RYSA. They had a vacancy, and so I applied for that, and that was, 12 years ago now, I think?
Yes.
And so I've been a director of a youth soccer club for the last 12 years. So it's interesting how those things happen. I mean, some of it is luck. Some of it is, being in the right place at the right time, that sort of thing. Obviously, I always had a desire to continue to do that. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I could be a social worker right now, or a school counselor right now, but my path went a different way. It's just kind of interesting how those things happen.
Yeah, I think, because I remember when you first came to RYSA, I remember it was the kind of like the summer of me entering high school, because it was like 2008 or 9 ish when you came, and I thought you were so many excellent camps, and I had just a lot of fun. And I just remember it was always the activities and the drills are just it was competitive, but it was always the aspect of fun, and you made sure every player had a good time, and and felt great. And it was I was just you did an excellent job at RYSA.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you something that, so I when I was at Davidson, I got hooked up with the Wake Forest soccer camps, and I got to know Jay Vidovich, who was the coach there for a long time, kind of made the Wake Forest program, Walt Chisowich made the Wake Forest program what it was, but Jay Vidovich definitely continued on that tradition. They were excellent teams, excellent players there. And he became a good resource for me. And at one point I was at Wofford College, and the Wake Forest second assistant job came open, and they asked me about it. And I had asked Jay a few years prior, when I went from Davidson to Wofford, how do I decide where I need to be?
Mm.
And his advice to me was, you need to go where you're going to have the biggest impact on the most number of people. And so that's always rung very true with me. Unfortunately, maybe not unfortunately, but 2 years after that, Jay asked me to come work at Wake Forest, and I told I went back to what his advice was to me, where I was going to have the biggest impact on the biggest number of people. And I felt like it was where I was at Wofford College at the time. And so I did not take the opportunity to go to Wake Forest. But I've always kind of followed that, especially with the director thing, because, now instead of having, influence on, 20 to 30 college age boys, I mean, there's hundreds of kids now that I may not get to influence directly, but I do feel like I get to, guide the program that's going to bring those kids in, and hopefully they enjoy soccer for the rest of their lives. And so what you said definitely rings true with, having fun. We want it to be serious, but we want the kids to have fun as well, because we want every one of the kids to leave our program, especially the recreation side, soccer, summer camps, that sort of thing. We want them to leave feeling like they can't get enough. They want to play again. They can't wait to get back on the field. And so that it's good to hear you say that, even 10 years from how we were at that camp.
Yeah. And I just remember, like, when you took over, like, I grew up playing RYSA since I was 5 years old. So this is 2000. So it was about a decade before you came along. I just remember RYSA is always, Conyers is not necessarily, in Rockdale County, it's not necessarily a big city or county by any means, but I remember just when you started to take over, it seems like the participation at RYSA increased, at least from what I felt and what I basically saw, like with the parking lot being filled every weekend and game. Sure. So I thought that's pretty much a testament of what, a director of coaching.
Yeah, well, I think we were able to do a lot of things. A lot of it was the programming I think we were able to add. And RYSA had a lot of that infrastructure already there.
Yeah.
And I was a kid, probably early 80s was when I joined RYSA for the first time. I think I have the first trophy that I had from RYSA. I think it was from 1981, if you can believe that. But I think that there was some leadership in the Rockdale County area, the Conyers area, that they bought that property, they built those fields, and then shortly after that, maybe 10 years after that, they built that indoor center. Mm-hmm. So that infrastructure was there. And then so when I got there, it was about, what programs can we create to fill this up? Mm-hmm. And so, some of it was the, putting a good emphasis on the quality travel teams. Obviously, we wanted to do that for those higher level players. But it was also about taking care of those kids that wanted to come in from the recreation side too. So we spent a lot of time in schools and doing free clinics and stuff like that to try to get new kids to come in. In the indoor building, they never really had competitive leagues before. And so we started the competitive leagues in the indoor building, which I thought generated a lot of traffic. They'd never really done tournaments, which was crazy to me because they had the structure there to do the tournaments. And then obviously kind of the icing on the cake when a couple years before I left was the MPSL team as well. And so, giving those kids a different level to look at, they could watch it every weekend during the summer. They could see those people. Some of those folks were coaches that they had, so they could see those guys playing at that higher level. It was a pretty cool thing to watch kind of throughout. We hosted a couple Open Cup games there. It was a neat experience. Yeah.
I was about to add that when Georgia Revolution first came about, I thought that was really, really cool. And one person that is always near and dear is Quadro Opoku. And I remember, it's just amazing how, knowing that he reached like the highest of heights in professional soccer, and knowing that he at one point was playing in essentially our backyard, and it's really cool. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw my son, who still loves Poku, is wearing the number 88 this year. And so he held up, I have a little Facebook post, he held up his little 88 jersey, and so that effect still lingers, even, 5, 6, 7 years from when we started all that. Yeah.
Do you still keep in contact with him?
We do. Yeah. So I saw him not a few weeks ago, probably a couple of months ago now. My mom had been sick, and he's very close to my mother. He stayed with my parents when he came and played with the Georgia Revolution. And so he's still very close with her, and she was sick a couple of months ago. And so he came and said hello. But yes, we still keep in touch with him. Whenever he's nearby, we go and see him play. Last summer we went and watched him play up in, Charlotte with the Independents. And so he was playing against the Independents. Yeah, and so when we went to Florida 2 summers ago, we went and stopped by. He was at the Tampa Bay Rowdies at that point. So, yeah, we went and saw training and hung out with him a little bit. It was cool.
Yeah. I saw that he recently signed with Gibraltar playing.
Yeah.
I thought that's really – it's like it's just cool how, like, he's just able to just go and experience different places
Yeah.
and countries and leagues and just
Well,
still.
he's going to be in the he's in I guess you could technically say he's in the Champions League because the
Yep.
team he plays for, I think it's Europa FC,
Yeah.
plays the Champions League play-in game. So
Yeah.
that'll be neat to see if
Yeah.
they can
If they can make a
advance.
decent
It'd be
run.
really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
And so, what made you like? What was the made you decide to go back to South Carolina from RYSA?
Yeah. So it was a I don't know that I have a great reason. There was a Jenny's family's from here, and so that was one thing to come back to. We had the opportunity to live in Greenville, South Carolina, which is a great city, and we've really enjoyed our time here. And the schools are great, and the neighborhood we are in currently is outstanding. And so all those things were pluses. The other thing, just like when I came to RYSA as well, is that I saw a club that could use a little help and move in the right direction. And I felt like RYSA was in that same place where they could, use a little lift and, hey, let's lift these guys up, get more kids playing soccer, and then move forward. And then I saw the same opportunity here in South Carolina. And so I started off here. I think we had 265 kids, I think. And then we've registered as many in the last year or two. We've registered as many as 800 kids.
Wow.
And so it's grown a lot. Obviously, all this coronavirus stuff, things are different now, but the upside here is tremendous. And so it was the same sort of thing, just, kind of going back to that Jay Vidovich encounter that I had, where are you going to have the biggest impact on the most number of people? I felt like it was going to be here in South Carolina.
What what's like the toughest like thing about being either a coaching director or even an executive director for an organization? Like, what are some parts of the job that you enjoy? What are some parts that are difficult?
Yeah. So it's funny, when I first time I was a director, when I came to RYSA, my goal was that I wasn't going to get involved in any politics. There was not going to be any of that. It was just going to be focused on the soccer, focused on the kids. And I think I maybe got through one parent meeting before I was already dealing with politics side of it. And it's just always part of it. Anytime you're dealing with kids and their parents, the parents always want what's best for their kids. And sometimes you may have a different idea what that might be, what that path may be different than what the parents feel like it should be, So I think that's probably the biggest challenge. I mean, when you get the kids on the field and you're coaching a session, the kids love it. The kids are into it. The kids are really no problem. It's really trying to manage the other parts of the club, whether it be the, parents' expectations or, the levels that the kids need to be playing at. I mean, there's a lot of different things inside a soccer club that you don't necessarily think of day to day that literally become your day to day, email by email. I mean, I can guarantee you, we played games this weekend on Saturday. I haven't checked my email since probably 2:00 on Saturday. And when I get back into the office, I'll probably have 200 emails. And there'll be a few of them that are from parents that some are happy and really, pumped about the way the weekend went. There's going to be other parents that aren't happy and want some answers about some things. And I'm going to have to give them those answers because ultimately they are our customers. And so that's probably the biggest challenge is knowing that in your heart of hearts, you want what's best for the kids. You're trying to do what's best for the kids, but you also have to explain that to the parents who sometimes their idea and your ideas don't quite mesh 100%,
Yeah. And then, of course, you've also coached at various levels. You were of course, the first coach for the Georgia Revolution when they first took over. Like, what are some key, I guess, of course, there are differences in the different levels of soccer that you've coached, but what do you think is like the major differences between, let's say, coaching semi-professionally like Georgia Revolution or at Limestone College or a U17 select girls or boys team? Like, how do you approach those teams differently?
Yeah, I think so. So the big thing to me is the motivation part, right? I mean, kids that are playing for the Georgia Revolution that have come and tried out, paid their tryout fee, and want to play at that level. They want to play and they want to get better every single day. Right now I have a group of 09 girls. So these girls are 10 and 11 years old and they are fantastic. I love them to death, but there are some days that I have to get them going a little bit, and I have to give them a little rah-rah at the beginning of practice, and I really have to keep them focused. With the older guys, with that semi-professional or professional level, that's expected. Those guys, they need to show up and they need to be ready to play, because if they're not, they're not going to play on the weekend. They're going to be sitting on the bench next to me, or they're going to get cut and they're not going to make the team. The girls that I have with my group now, I know that I'm going to have them for a year, and I have to do a good job of motivating every one of them. And it is a player by player thing. I can't go out there and present the same a training session to all those girls and expect the same result. I have to be able to be individually focused. Now, the other group I have a group of 09 girls. I also have a group of 04 boys who are, I guess they're juniors in high school now for the most part. And for the most part, they're very good players. They also, they're trying to decide right now, I like soccer. I'm pretty good at it. It's fun. Some of them are deciding, yes, I want to go play soccer in college. Some of them are deciding, you know what, I just want to ride this out and I'm going to continue to play. I want to play at a high level, but I'm not interested in and so there are different dynamics with that group as well. The kids obviously that want to play soccer in college, I have to push hard because, as you probably know, if you want to go play soccer in college, you have to be self-motivated. You have to go find those, opportunities. Nobody's going to give that to you. Where the other kids on the team that are thinking, you know what, I've got 2 more years of this, and I'm going to just be a college kid. There's different motivators for those two kids, And so I would say that the motivation, realizing what makes kids tick, is different for the younger ages than it is for the older kids. For the older kids, for the senior players, the players that want to say play semi-pro or pro, you know what their motivation is. They're there to get better and to be the best soccer player they can possibly be.
Mm. And like what's been what was, let's say, when you whether you're at Limestone or at RYSA or in South Carolina, like what do you think was the most challenging, I guess, either team or organization when you initially first came across that it took maybe, I don't know, like a season to just get things going, I'd say?
I'm sorry. So you broke up there for just a minute.
Oh,
so what was
sorry.
the most challenging thing for?
Yeah. What's been the most challenging aspect of your coaching or director's career, whether it's at first coming to RYSA or at Limestone or even your own collegiate career? Like what's been the most challenging part?
Yeah, I think that. I think the most challenging thing has been both of the clubs. When I first started at the 2 different clubs, I mean, both of them were in a different place, I guess, than I wanted them to be. And so there was a tremendous amount of work right off the bat, if that makes sense. And so I don't know if you remember when I first came to RYSA, you remember that coaching office that I was in?
Yes.
It was not a nice space, right? And so we got in there and we took out the carpet, we painted, we redid it all to make a space that we felt like was worthy of the youth club that we wanted it to be, and it was very similar at Carolina FC. It was just kind of, things have been done the same way for so long that some things have been, it had fallen by the wayside, and we needed to fix all those things before we could even, kind of move forward with the development of players and that kind of thing. We had to fix the structure, the infrastructure first, and then move forward. And so I think that's always the most difficult part. And I deal with that right now. I mean, we just, talked for a while about, parts of my job that aren't soccer specific. Those parts aren't the most fun. Do you know what I mean? They're probably the most challenging, but at the same time, they're probably the most important, because if you don't get those things right, if the parents aren't happy, if you can't have a conversation with a parent and let him know or her know, about the development of their child and make them feel comfortable with that, they're not going to be there the next year. And so you have to make sure that everybody's on board with what that mission is first, and then you can focus on the development of the players. And so I think those are the most challenging things when I feel like I'm consistently dealing with things that aren't necessarily soccer related and really keeping the kid first and foremost. Those things are difficult for me. And I think both at RYSA and at CFC, it took some time to kind of create that culture of excellence that we wanted to create.
Where'd you get this idea to start Georgia Revolution? Like was this a plan? Because of course, like NPSL and PDL as well were have been around for longer than, 2011. But where did you get this idea to bring a semi-pro team to RYSA?
Really, it was from, watching, having gone over and seen youth academies in Europe. It was really that sort of idea of creating this pyramid from the kid that just comes in at recreation level, bringing them up to the, academy level, which in the United States is U9 to U12, and then to the select level, which is U13 to U19, but really giving everybody a structure within the club where they could see where the top of this, pyramid is. Because as you well know, where we were situated in Georgia, we're surrounded by, GSA, by Henry County, by, Atlanta Fire, UFA, whatever it is. It's the same here in South Carolina. We've got, CISA's right down the street, a big 5,000 member club. Great club. They have great programming. They do a really good job there. But in order for us to reach the levels that we want to reach, we have to be able to also provide high level programming for those kids. And so, to be perfectly honest, when we did it, I mean, it was a stretch. Little old RYSA having an MPSL team was kind of a big deal. And now you look at it, it's funny now you look at it, because how many teams in Atlanta now have PDL, or what they're calling USL2 teams? You've got East Atlanta, you've got SSA, you've got MOBA, there's a number of them now. And it was just us again, and it went right down to the uniforms, right? I mean, we brought the uniforms in for the first team that first summer, and the next season all of our kids were in the exact same uniform, and the kids were jazzed up about it, and players like Poku, like you talked about. Dusty Fowler's another one. He was our captain for the first year, and he was one of our big coaches there at the youth club. I mean, the kids latched onto those guys, and it was really cool to see that. And so it was not just about creating the pyramid, but it was also about creating role models within our club for kids to look up to and be like, you know what, I want to do what that guy's doing right now.
Yeah, it's because of course Georgia Revolution, like one of the first, like, of course, like I think the Atlanta Silverbacks have had like a PDL team, like a U23 team, and then once Georgia Revolution came on, you're right, like all teams like throughout Georgia's various suburbs started cropping up, and I thought that's basically, I think some of that credit has to belong to you, right, to lead Georgia Revolution, and just they were very successful, especially the first couple of years, making decent Open Cup runs and playing against professional teams. I thought that was really cool. And
it was neat. Yeah. I mean, the first time we played the Silverbacks, the first time we come out there and there's 1,500 people out there at RYSA, and there's flares going off and smoke, bombs and whatever. I mean, it was unbelievable atmosphere. And if you remember that game, I get poked to a hard time about this all the time. If you remember that game, we missed a penalty in the first half.
I do remember that. Yeah.
We ended up losing that game 1-0, and it could have been a different story. We could have been playing. I think it was the Seattle Sounders in the next round. That would have been something else. That would have been something else. So.
Where do you see Carolina FC? Like, what's your next major goal at that organization?
Yeah, well, it's funny we're talking so much about the MPSL because we've talked a little bit about the USL2 routes. I had a long conversation with Kelly Shira, and I was at RYSA actually a month or so ago. I was at home visiting my mom who was sick, and then I went to go see my niece and my nephew practice. And I went into the office and was talking to Lisa and Michelle there, and then saw Sam and Kelly. And I talked to Kelly beforehand about it. I was talking to those guys about a USL2 program in Spartanburg. And I don't know if you're aware, but there's a USL championship team here in Greenville called the Greenville Triumph. We'd really like to be able to partner with them and do something where there's a big pyramid up to the real professional team. That's obviously some time away and a lot of conversations away. But I think that would be the ideal dream, is to be able to do something like that here in Spartanburg, where again we're able to recreate that pyramid for our kids. They can see folks that they've played with, or folks that they've maybe trained next to. They see them playing these high level games, and then ultimately, hey, there's this professional level that we can actually get to here in Spartanburg and the Greenville area. And I think that's what when I was growing up, and to be honest, when you were growing up, I think that's what the soccer culture in our country is missing, right? As kids growing up, I played at RYSA until I was probably a junior in high school. Then I went and played for Stone Mountain. You played at RYSA throughout. there was no structure like that in place. You know what I mean? There was nothing for us, at least at a young level. You know, when you're 10 years old starting off, there's
Yeah.
nothing for you to say, hey, I want to be like Poku, you know? And I think we have to create that in our country at different places. Obviously, every club can't do that.
Mm.
But if we can create that in a number of different places where kids can see that progression, they have that motivation to become better soccer players, to really strive towards something big. I think until we have that in this country, it's going to be difficult for us to compete in places like the World Cup or, you
Mm.
know, on that type of stage. And I think it's going to take a while. And, you know, people have arguments all the time about promotion and relegation and, you know, what do we need to do there? And would that make our system stronger? Maybe. But my big thing right now is let's put some semi-pro and lower level professional soccer out all over the country so kids can see it. They can identify with it. They can move up that pyramid like we're talking about, from rec to academy to select to college to pro.
Yeah, and I think that's a good philosophy to kind of build from the ground up with semi-professional teams, because it's a different atmosphere attending Revolution games at RYSA compared to, let's say, going to San Siro and seeing Juventus play, because it's you're in the semi-professional setting. Fans are much more, I guess, closer and I guess intimate with the players. Like they can high five players and get autographs and have a quick conversation. But if you go to like San Siro, you're not going to have Ronaldo chatting with you for hours at a time. So I think it's important that there's like a level of, I guess, closeness as far as the semi-pro level. It's just
Well, and I think even in Atlanta, I mean, I think the Atlanta United coming into town, because that happened right after I left the Metro Atlanta area. That's a huge thing for Metro Atlanta soccer. Huge thing for Metro Atlanta soccer. And so, but if we can have that trickle down, and I think it's great that places like MOBA and SSA and Rice is starting up a new has started up a new USL2 team. The Georgia Revolution still around. I think those opportunities for kids are fantastic, and I think we probably need some more of that in South Carolina, because to be honest, youth soccer in South Carolina is way behind where youth soccer is in Georgia right now. And I think all of those little steps in between are going to help, hopefully help us catch up a little bit.
Yeah. Do you what would be, like, let's say, your top 3 words of advice to, whether it's coaches, whether it's other directors, or even players themselves? What would be some key takeaways that you would want to pass on to those individuals?
Now, is this just for, just in terms of life, or becoming a better soccer coach or soccer player, or
becoming a better soccer? I'd say soccer coach.
Yeah. So, I think for coaches, I think it's all about, continuing to educate yourself, whether you're reading books, whether you're going online and watching webinars, whether you're going to, the United Soccer Coaches convention, whatever it may be. Any chance you have to go watch a soccer a training session, even if it's somebody that's not, it could be a new soccer coach. You go watch a soccer training session. Almost every training session I watch from another coach, I learned something from it. Maybe it's a different way to phrase something. Maybe it's a different way to demonstrate something to a player. I think all of those opportunities, are invaluable. And I still, I've been doing this for, almost 20 years, I guess now. And I still, the majority of my training sessions, I've stolen from somebody else, right? I've seen it somewhere else. I saw it work really well, and I wanted to do that. And so I think that any opportunity you have to watch other training sessions, watch, training sessions on YouTube, educate yourselves, read books. I think immerse yourself in it. If you really want to become a better coach, it's just like anything. I tell my kids that I coach all the time, if you want to get better at soccer, you don't sit on your couch and watch movies and eat potato chips and drink grape soda. You go out and you play soccer. If you want to be a better soccer coach, you go out and you coach soccer, or you go watch other coaches coach soccer, right? You can't become better without immersing yourself in it. And so I would say the same thing for any player that wants to be better, is that if you're sitting on your couch wishing you were a good soccer player, you're not getting better sitting there wishing on the couch. You need to go out in the backyard and juggle. You need to go and play. You need to find a pickup game. You need to go find a session you can be a part of, whatever it may be. You need to get out and play soccer. That is the only way that you're going to get better.
Cool. Rafe, I want to say thank you very much for having the time to join the episode, and I'm really happy to talk to you. It's been a while, and Yeah, I'm very happy you got the RYSA jersey
Yes,
to represent somehow. But I just want to say, yeah, like best
I
of
love
luck
it.
this season at Carolina FC, and hopefully we can meet up sometime, whether you're back in Georgia or somehow I manage to take a day trip to South Carolina sometime.
Let's
So
do it. You let me know if you're close by, and I'll let you know like some of them in Conyers too.
yeah, sweet,
All
awesome.
right.
Have a good rest of the night.
Thanks, bud. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, see ya.
All right, bye.
Bye.